In today's video, I'm going to teach you how you can guarantee that you see the best fitness results of your life. How you can finally get that toned, fit, sexy looking body, and actually how it's going to involve eating more food and doing less workouts, just doing them better. So follow along because I'm about to teach you how you can stop struggling, putting all this energy into eating clean, getting in your protein, and doing tons of workouts without actually seeing the results you want. So let's go. Let me share with you how you can guarantee you get that fit, toned body you've been dreaming of. What's going on, Fit Fam? Welcome on back to my channel. My name is Megan Janice, the founder of Nomadic Fitness, and I teach you ladies how to eat way more food without any restrictions and work out smarter instead of harder so you can build that fit, sexy, toned hourglass body that you feel amazing in, and you'll be able to maintain it year-round for life with ease. So if you're new to the channel, make sure to hit that like and subscribe. Come follow me over on Instagram for even more fitness content. And if you're coming on back, thanks so much for joining for another video. All right, fam, let's start by explaining what a fit, toned, great looking body actually is. It is nothing more than a female physique that has a relatively low amount of body fat and especially has a lot of muscle. That is literally all you need to do. So whether you're trying to get abs, whether you're trying to grow your glutes, whether you're trying to lose that stubborn belly fat or thigh fat, whatever it is, all that it ever takes for you to see your dream results, this ideal feminine physique, is gaining lots of muscle and keeping your body fat levels relatively low. So the biggest mistake that I see everybody making, and that I also used to make in the past, when it comes to getting that result, is they only think about the fat loss part. They just think, so long as I lose weight, so long as I take fat off my body, then I'm going to look absolutely amazing. And yes, if you take fat off your body, you're gonna get smaller, you're gonna be more skinny, and in a sense, of course, that's maybe getting you in the direction of your goals, but you will get to a point where you're like, okay, but I still just look kind of mushy, flabby, shapeless, even though I'm small. It's not firm, tight, and defined the way that I thought it would be. And that's because you also need to gain muscle. You need to gain plenty of muscle to get that firm, tight, smooth skin with all the sexy lines and definition that you want. And not only is it going to give you the aesthetic result that you want, but it's also going to be how you easily maintain it. Because when you gain more muscle, you are also needing to eat more food to create that result, and therefore you are speeding up how many calories your body burns on a daily basis. So this is what is turning you into a calorie burning machine, so that you just always get to be fit, toned, and fabulous, even when you're out living a great life, getting to go on vacation, getting to eat meals out with your friends. So this is giving you food freedom while also giving you the physique you've always wanted. Okay, so now that you know you need to not only lose fat, but you also need to gain plenty of muscle, the question is, how do you do that? So a lot of women do get the knowledge that yes, they're supposed to be focusing on gaining muscle, losing fat, but a big problem that is happening is that they're not going about it the correct way. In particular, they're usually trying to do both at the same time, which really is not a great strategy. The reason why is because to lose a significant amount of body fat, you do need to be in a calorie deficit, meaning your body needs to be burning more calories than what you're consuming. And simultaneously, if you want to gain a significant amount of muscle where you actually look really fabulous, snatched, toned, tight, firm skin, you need to be in a calorie surplus. And that means that you need to be eating a bit more food than the amount that your body is burning, because since we're trying to build muscle, we're trying to create something that isn't on your body right now. And yes, you can have some muscle gain before getting into a surplus, but you definitely will be disappointed that you're not getting as much muscle gain, as much tone definition as you would otherwise want, especially when we're talking your lower body, because your legs and glutes are such big muscles. So if you want to grow beautiful glutes, if you want to have sculpted, shapely, toned legs, you definitely are going to need to spend some period of time in a calorie surplus to actually have enough fuel to build those big muscles. And it's also how you're going to be building your sexy lower body while still keeping a small waist, keeping the defined abs, and sculpted defined arms. So who doesn't want that, am I right? So if muscle gain requires a calorie surplus and fat loss requires a calorie deficit, this naturally leads us to understand that we need to have designated times where we are in either phase. So you have to have designated periods of time where you're focused on muscle gain, and also designated periods of time where you're focused on fat loss. Now, the traditional names for these phases is cutting for fat loss and building for muscle muscle gain. Also in the industry, most of the time you hear it as bulking. Bulking is the word, but I prefer to say building just because I know that the word bulk can seem kind of scary to women, but ultimately it means the same thing. You're not going to get bulky. You're actually going to get a really beautiful snatched, toned hourglass body, so don't worry about that. So there are these two phases, cutting, building, and there's actually a third phase as well that not a whole lot of people know about, but it is starting to get more popular. And if you watched a bunch of my other videos, you probably heard me talking about it, and that's called reverse dieting. So reverse dieting is the third phase that you will use essentially as a way to transition and prepare yourself for either of the phases of muscle gain or fat loss, aka building and cutting. So a reverse diet is where you gradually increase the amount of food that you eat so that your body will get adapted and your body's maintenance will become higher. Your maintenance calories will increase, and as a baseline, you'll be burning more calories 24/7 around the clock. So essentially, you're using the reverse diet either to get you ready for a fat loss phase for the calorie deficit. And the reason you would do this is because you want to see essentially how much improvement you can already have with your physique just by increasing calories and getting them to the right macros, protein, fats, and carbs, the right distribution that they should be, and also training properly, actually lifting weights, doing quality exercises, quality reps, and really stimulating your muscles for growth. So once you get your macros and your weight training correct, that alone can be enough to start to see a pretty significant amount of fat loss and muscle gain in the beginning. But like I said, you will eventually plateau this. There is going to be a point where you're going to need to thoroughly decide which of the two you are going to focus on. So a reverse diet gets you going, but eventually you're gonna have to pick and designate yourself completely to one or the other to really see big progress and big results. So a reverse diet is helping you to get the initial changes to your body to already start looking a bit better. And then of course, most of all, it's helping your body to get a higher baseline maintenance. So this is how you condition your body to burn more calories all the time so that when the time comes that you kind of maxed out your reverse and you are wanting to really lose quite a bit of body fat, let's say anywhere from 10 to 30 pounds in one cut, which will last somewhere between about 6 to 8 months. Since you got your calories nice and high, you're gonna have plenty of room to drop them for a calorie deficit to lose a lot of body fat. So for example, this is a big mistake that so many people make in this industry is they hear, okay, I need a calorie deficit for fat loss, but they aren't asking themselves if they're in a good position to be going into that fat loss phase, because a lot of women are already not eating very much food on a consistent baseline. So if they now go drop their calories to try to lose weight, guess what's gonna happen? You don't have really any room to drop. You're not gonna be able to go very far. You're gonna be miserable. It's gonna be very difficult to adhere to. You're gonna really slow down your metabolism. You're going to lose any muscle you do have because your calories are getting so low. You're gonna piss off your hormones. And again, it's just not necessary. It's going to be way more effective for you and also just more enjoyable, more sustainable if you get your calories higher first and then you have room to start dropping them for a calorie deficit. This is my client Londa, and she came in only averaging around 1,800 calories a day when we started coaching together. Now, this isn't such a low amount, but I also knew that we could definitely get her calories higher first before we would start dropping them, even though her goals were to lose some body fat. So what do? We first did a reverse diet, bringing her calories gradually up all the way to about 2,200 a day. And then from there, I was seeing that, okay, the scale's starting to plateau. We're not really actually seeing any decrease happening. And technically, this is a high enough amount of food that we now have lots of room to drop her intake from. So now we are cutting, we've moved into the fat loss phase. And guess what? She's back at 1,800 calories, and she actually weighs the same amount as she did when she started. But look, you can see how different she already looks. This is only a couple of months into coaching, and she already looks like a whole new person. So just wait a couple more months and it's going to be an even more jaw-dropping transformation by the time I'm done with her and we've built a lot more muscle and lost more body fat. The point is, she came into the program only eating about 1,800 calories. If I had started her deficit right then and there, we would already be much lower in calories and she wouldn't have as much sexy muscle definition to show because she didn't take the time to increase first, to use that food to build muscle, and then to have room to drop her calories. So now she's back to the same intake intake, which is actually now technically a deficit that she's actually losing body fat on, and she's seeing such good results underneath. So that's the trajectory nearly everybody is going to need to follow, is they're going to need to first do some amount of a reverse diet. And I bet you're asking, okay, when do you know to finish your reverse diet? And the answer is you usually want to end it at least 2,000 calories a day. That's like the bare minimum. But definitely with the vast majority of clients we coach, I see women ending the reverse somewhere between 2,200 to maybe 2,500 calories a day. It can be a little bit higher than that sometimes, and sometimes it's on the lower end, but usually I'd say at least that amount. And then we're able to start dropping calories for fat loss and achieving the maximum amount of fat loss in a deficit. So a reverse diet is usually going to last somewhere between minimum at least 1 month, but usually more like 2 to 3 months of prepping the body, getting it ready for fat loss. And the thing is, we're usually seeing really good results already in how they look in these 2 to 3 months, even if their weight isn't changing that much. That's called body recomposition, when literally what your body's composed of is changing. So fat is coming off, muscle's coming on. That's why the weight is not really changing, but you're looking much better. Now, if you are going through this reverse diet process to increase your calories to give you room to drop for an effective fat loss phase, but you actually weren't seeing that your body composition was improving very much in this phase, this is where you wouldn't reverse for very long. You would try to keep it a little bit on the shorter end, get your calories to a good enough place to have the room to start cutting, making sure, of course, that you're also training really well. The better you train, the more you push yourself in the gym, the more you really target and stimulate your muscles, the better results you're going to get, because you're going to be building more muscle and utilizing that food that's coming in to help build that muscle, which is in turn also speeding up your metabolism for better results with fat loss too. So after that reverse diet of about 2 to 3 months, usually, that is when most people are going to need to move into the cut, into the fat loss phase. And how long is that going to last? Usually at the minimum I see is about 4 months, and I would say that's for somebody who maybe doesn't have quite as much weight and or body fat that they want to lose. But usually I see a cut lasting more like 5 to 6 months, and sometimes honestly up to as much as like 8 or 9 months. And the reason that it would last that long is just because you have enough weight that you want to lose, you're continuing to see the scale drop every single week, and you're feeling good about it. You're not hitting that burnout point of just feeling super hungry, super exhausted and miserable, because it is normal that at a point after cutting for so many months, because you are technically in a deficit of energy, that you will hit the wall, that you will get really exhausted, really burnt out. And that is kind of when you know that you need to stop cutting and you need to take a break and actually do another reverse diet. And if you still have more body fat that you want to lose, this is when you would go into a second cut at that point. By the way, it's also normal that if you have a higher amount of body fat to lose, that you're not going to be able to lose it all in just one cut. So this is where you have to know how to reverse, spend, a good 6 to 8 months cutting, take a break, reverse up again, get your calories nice and high, give your body a break away from the deficit of energy, build some muscle, and then once again move back into your deficit. Okay, so once you are lean enough, you're reversing out of your cut, this is when you introduce the building phase, the muscle gain phase. And like I said, this is actually in a lot of ways the most important phase, because yes, we do need to get you lean enough that you're in a position to be able to gain weight, because that is what's going to happen when you're in a calorie surplus. You actually are trying to gain weight because you're trying to put muscle on your body that isn't there right now. Now, the thing is, when you're gaining weight, it can't only be from muscle. Of course, you're training hard, you're eating the right macros so that you're controlling as much as possible that it's mainly muscle gain, but you are also going to gain some fat. It is just impossible that you can't gain any fat while also gaining some muscle, which is also the same, by the way, when you're in a deficit. When you're cutting, you can't only lose body fat, you also will lose a little bit of muscle, which is why when you're cutting for fat loss, the best possible thing you can do to preserve as much muscle as possible is to be lifting weights and really challenging your muscles. That's the thing that is going to protect your muscle as much as possible, because they're really being activated and stimulated. And of course, eating enough protein so that even though you're in a deficit, you're still protecting as much muscle as possible. So the thing is, you can't go into the muscle gain phase until you are skinny already. So if you have a good bit of fat you need to lose, you're going to need to go through the reverse cut. And once you get lean enough, that's when we're moving into the build. And so a build should last at least 6 months. Any less than that is just way too little time. You're not really going to have been able to do much because you need to obviously give your body a bit of time to really train hard, eat all that food, and gradually gain some weight. So what's the amount of weight gain you should be aiming to see while you're building? It should be something like 1 to 2 pounds per month. You really don't want it to be much more than that. If you're gaining weight quicker than that, you're probably just gaining too much body fat. So that's why we're trying to keep it controlled, where it's just a slight surplus, you're eating well, you're still training hard, and yes, you're gaining, but actually it's looking just really shapely and you're looking really good overall. So it should be at least 6 months, but honestly, it can go up to a year or maybe even more. And the thing is that you're lean and now you're simply putting on more shape. So overall, you're just looking really good. You're getting more hourglassy, getting those beautiful sculpted legs, getting that pop and booty, getting lots of definition in your upper body as well, still maintaining abs pretty well, having a snatched waist. So you're really kind of getting the best of both worlds when you do a build correctly and when you get lean enough first before doing your build. Now, essentially at a point, you're gonna start to feel a little bit too fluffy after you have been building for a while because you will have gained back some body fat. So that is really when you can decide that you're ready to once again go back into a cut. And then the beautiful part of this is that since you got your calories so high doing a muscle building phase, now when you go to cut, it's actually going to be really easy because you have so much room to drop your calories and your body's adapted to such a high amount of fuel that you don't have to go very low in your intake at all in order to be able to take weight, aka fat, off your body. So I can't stress enough that it's really the muscle gain, the building phase, that is actually going to shape your body by far most of all. I've shared this so many times on my channel, but definitely that was the case with me because back in the day, for my first many years in fitness, I would only ever try to get lean. I would only ever try to lose body fat. And yes, I was in the gym, I was lifting weights, so I had a little bit of muscle definition, but I really didn't have nearly as much as I thought I should for somebody who was working out as hard as I was and eating all the protein that I was. So it wasn't until I hired a coach and finally learned how to do muscle building phases that my physique really changed into that sculpted hourglass shape that I had always wanted, particularly in my legs and glutes, while still staying really nice and defined in my abs and in my upper body. So don't shy away from this phase, ladies. I know that so many women hold themselves back from this phase because they're scared. They're like, oh my God, I don't want to be in a surplus. I don't want to gain weight because they think it's going to make them look worse. But a lot of the time, gaining weight is actually going to make you look better. You just need to do it correctly. And again, even if you gain a little bit of body fat, you will be able to take it off really easily once you go into your cut, more easily than you would be actually if you never did the build. And this is really just how you get a great physique over time, is cycling through these phases. So I'm going to share my client Casey here as an example of this because she's somebody who ended up having a massive transformation working with me. And really this is Casey's transformation over about 2 years. And the way that we were able to get her such dramatic results was exactly this. We just cycled through reversing, cutting, and building a bunch of times because over 2 years, you can go through those phases a bunch of different times to get this epic result. So she was stuck around 150 pounds when she came to me. And obviously it was just a lot of body fat, really no muscle, even though she was working out a lot and she was always dieting, always restricting. And she felt like no matter what she did, she was just gaining more and more weight. Then finally she came to me. I taught her all about macros. I taught her how to lift weights properly in the gym. Even though she was intimidated to do it at first, she ended up absolutely falling in love with it. And then of course I guided her through reversing, cutting, building. So we ended up doing a bunch of different phases, and usually in her build I was able to get her up to around 2,400 calories a day. That was usually around when we would see for her body, based on her photos, based on the scale trend, that was the maximum for her. And then we would do a cut, and usually she was able to lose a bunch of weight on 2,000 calories a day. Usually the absolute lowest we would have to go is 1,800 at the very end, and she was just able to lean out so well on that amount of food. Before, she would once again reverse and build more muscle on 2,000 to 2,400 calories a day. So now she's officially down 20 pounds, and obviously you can see she's just built so much muscle. She looks absolutely amazing, and she just stays this way all the time now. That is a permanent transformation for her. So you can see for yourself what it looks like to go through these 3 phases, and this is how you guarantee that you see the results that you want, okay? So instead of just eating healthy, instead of just getting protein and doing a bunch of workouts, you need to know how to navigate these phases, because the physique you want is a more muscular physique, whether or not you realize it. It just is more muscle on your body and taking fat off. So in order to do that, you have to know how to go through muscle building phases versus fat loss phases, and when and how to move from one to the other. So if this is all feeling quite overwhelming to you and you don't want to have to figure out exactly how to put the pieces together, you just want to be told exactly what to eat, how much, what workouts to do, how to improve in your workouts, that's exactly what we offer inside of our one-to-one fitness coaching program, where we give you a completely custom strategy. We consistently update the strategy, taking you through these 3 different phases over time, teaching you how to lift weights as best, as smartly as possible, so you don't have to spend so much time doing it, but you really maximize the results you get. So if you'd love to finally get your dream results and stop struggling and always guessing how to get them without really seeing the results, that is exactly what we'll help you do inside of one-to-one coaching. So if you're interested, you can click on the link in the description, and we would love to have a chat with you to see if it's a good fit. All right, Fit Fam, thank you so much for checking out this video. Now next, I want you to go watch this one here, where I'm gonna walk you through the details of how to train smarter instead of harder. So how you can work out less, but see way better results for it, especially how to build the glutes and legs. So I will see you in that video.